justice need to keep on turning. And two of those judges who are entrusted with that in the state of Minnesota are Judge Lois Conroy, the vice president of the Minnesota District Judges Association, and Judge Kerry Meyer. She is the assistant chief judge of Hennepin County Court, that is District 4 for the state of Minnesota. Welcome, judges, to Real Talk with Roshini.
Thank you, Roshini, for having us this afternoon.
You know, I want to start with a fun question. It is National Ice Cream Day. Judge Meyer, do you have a favorite ice cream?
Absolutely. Salted caramel all day.
Oh, that is a good choice. What about you, Judge Conroy?
I would have to say Kemp's vanilla. In fact, I'm stocking up. Family is coming in from California this week. They miss it out there. I will have plenty in the freezer.
Well, vanilla is the most popular flavor in ice cream loving countries in the world. So you're right. You're right in that kind of trend, Judge Lois Conroy. All right, let's talk about a very weird time. Maybe we'll start with you, Judge Meyer. Give us a picture of what being in court looks like right now in these COVID times.
It looks like this mix of some people in the courtroom, some people on the telephone, some people on Zoom that we're using primarily for people who can't get to court for various reasons. But in general, the galleries are pretty empty. We're just not having a lot of extra people come to court as we try to keep our distance. We've got plexiglass everywhere and keeping everybody at least 6 feet apart.
All right, Judge Conroy, it sounds like that could get a little confusing for the participants, but also a lot to manage for you as a judge.
You know, I think that I have to give a hand to court staff that they really manage the courtroom and manage Zoom. And so they've done a really wonderful job of managing the flow of our hearings. But admittedly, we spend time in court just introducing people before we get started with a hearing. So if I have a hearing where I have some people in the courtroom and some people on this video feed, I will take time to introduce everyone. I wouldn't normally do that in a physical courtroom, but we don't have all the visual cues. I mean, it's easy to see who the judge is when you walk into a physical courtroom. They're in the front of the room and they're wearing a black robe. When you're on Zoom, you're just another rectangle amongst a number of rectangles. And so sometimes that orientation can take a little bit, and I think it's worth the time in doing so.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's wonderful that you painted that picture for us. Judge Meyer, do you feel that you're able to do your job and that justice, the wheels of justice, as I have been saying these last few days promoting your segment, do they really keep turning in these COVID times?
Absolutely. We are making access to justice a priority for people who are charged with offenses and for people who've been victimized by crime to make sure that they can continue to get the cases through the system and not just having them hanging over their head unresolved for an extended, indefinite period of time.
Now, I've had various friends of mine who are attorneys who have said, you know, they are expecting or already have had cases delayed, things like that. Judge Conroy, what is that calendar looking like? Are we going to get a bunch of things stuck in December and into 2021 because of this?
Well, I think I share the concern with all of judges that there's going to be a backlog, that cases are not moving as quickly. But I think you have to have the courage to change the things you can. And one of the ways we're doing that is using technology to help us keep cases moving. No doubt, there will be a backlog, but we are doing our very best to keep cases moving and using any means of technology to make that happen.
And what about privacy issues, Judge Meyer? You know, give us a picture, a visual on that. Are you concerned about any of the privacy issues when things are, in some cases, fully on video, part courtroom?
Sure, that's absolutely something we considered when we determined which software we would use, which program. And we are using Zoom Gov. We're not using just straight Zoom, that's, free access. We have licenses for one person in each chambers who starts the sessions. We also have open courtrooms, and so we have to make each hearing available, even if it is completely remote or everyone on technology. So we're walking that fine line, but we're not on the open web where anybody can just jump into the hearing nobody can just run across it.
Well, that's really good to know. I'm talking with Judge Kerry Meyer and Judge Lois Conroy. If you have questions for them, they are state court judges, and they are helping the wheels of justice continue to turn. If you have questions, give us a call or a text, 651-989-9226. Judge Conroy, certainly no one could have imagined what we are all living through, what you all have to live through in the courts. Are there any kind of fun surprises or maybe positive surprises from how you've had to do things lately?
I think one of the positive surprises is that when we have met this challenge, that I have been really impressed with how lawyers, court staff, defendants, victims in cases, that there's really this sense of let's get it done, let's all work together to make it happen. And I really appreciate that sort of can-do spirit, that flexibility. I feel like people have been particularly patient with one another. Maybe we've had a sound challenge and we had to work through that. I feel like people have been particularly generous. And then I think there are just some interesting things you find yourself doing on a video feed that you wouldn't do in a normal courtroom. And that's been a little bit surprising to me.
Yeah, very interesting. And Judge Meyer, I'm wondering, what are your tips for people if they do have to deal with the courts or they have things on the docket? What's the way for them to be as stress-free as possible?
Well, it depends on what their stressors are, right? But if they have any questions, they can always call the court and figure out how to get their hearing to be remote instead of in person. They should always stay in contact with their attorney or their victim advocate to find out what's happening and what are their options for appearing in court, and to keep up to date with what's happening in each individual hearing.
Right. Well, that's great. Any other tips, Judge Conroy, from you before we say goodbye?
No, I just want to thank you for your time, Roshini. I'm such a fan of your show and of WCCO. You've been so generous, and just really grateful for your time on the show this afternoon.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Oh, we do have a question. Dan in Hopkins is calling. Dan, what are your questions? What is your question for the judges?
With a number of our politicians on one side of the aisle that want to abolish or eliminate the police, how do you think that will affect the amount of crime and the amount of cases now as far as backlogging goes in Minnesota?
This is Judge Meyer. I'm not sure that the two would be related. We have backlog right now because of COVID, and the court system is reactionary, right? We don't start cases. We don't control how many cases come especially in the criminal division. And so we'll continue to take what comes to us and to deal with it as effectively but safely as possible. And I just don't know what the correlation will be. We'll all see.
All right. And Tommy in Minneapolis, before we have to say goodbye. Tommy, what's your question?
Yeah, this is for Judge Meyer. Judge Meyer, there are some courts that do wonderful good. For instance, DWI court, drug court, veterans court. How are those holding up?
That's been a really interesting. So those are our treatment courts, and those normally have in-person appearances with a team of people and a mass of defendants every single week. And we've gone completely remote on those. Those are all running on Zoom, and so people are still getting their reviews with the judges, and the judges are staying in contact as well as probation with their clients and participants in those courts. And so we are hoping we're staying on top of sobriety issues throughout this pandemic.
All right. Well, Judges Conroy and Meyer, thank you so much. And we'll have to have you back because those topical courts, I think, are so interesting and such a positive for our state. And hopefully they might even help contribute to some of this conversation in reforming public safety and justice and equal access for everyone. So thank you so much. Judge Lois Conroy is Vice President of the Minnesota District Judges Association, and Judge Kerry Meyer. Appreciate both of your time today.
Thank you so much for having us.